happy with that trip. And this was the first flight back. And it was just such a memorable flight, such a fantastic flight. And that's what happens with hang gliding and paragliding. If you persist with it, you know, and you just go out, those brilliant flights come up quite regularly. You know, you get 4 or 5 a year, and you get lots of quite interesting flights. But I've found whenever my enthusiasm has been dying a bit, one of these flights has come along. That really makes it all worthwhile. Okay, questions?
You've shown us really well how well hang gliders can use the lift, but you did say that sometimes you get wavy and light wings.
Right, yes. Yes. I've seen the smoke Bradwell come out of the chimney horizontally and go up when it got to the ridge, and come down again, and go up again near Abney, come down again, and go up. And it was that smooth that you can see it go up the third time, somewhere near Hathersage. And on my Magic 4, we used to have a glide angle of 10 on a good day. We were all getting up in the wave. It stayed in phase for a while, and we actually had the Blériot Cup on. So we had a lot of French pilots. Before it was Blériot Cup paragliders, it was just hang gliders and French speaking English. We all got up in this wave, and it was blue, but occasionally some moist air would come through and form cloud. So I was sat above Bradwell at 4,000 feet above takeoff. So that's what, 5,300 or whatever. And this cloud formed underneath me. Oh. And then it disappeared again. I looked behind me, and it started to form in the wave bar behind me. So, oh, I'll follow that. So I turned downwind and turned back into the wind over that cloud. Didn't really lose a lot of height, found a bit more over that one. And I was only over Abney. And then, same thing, followed it back another climb, climbed it near Hathersage. So then I'm sat near Hathersage at a bit higher, 4,500, 5,000 above, something like that. It's a long time ago now. And another patch of moist air came along, formed a cloud upwind of me. I thought, it's not too far away. I'm looking down at it, quite steep, and I came down. And I pulled the bar in and headed, and I didn't really get a lot of sink. We made lots of progress without sinking until I was really looking down at the cloud at about 60 degrees, thinking, I've not hit any sink yet. There's no way I can fail to get on with that cloud. And just then it started to sink. And I was then going flat out, and 60-degree slope, and I actually went through the top of the cloud and popped out the other side of the cloud. And I did the same thing again and got back to take off and top landing. So in that sort of short wavelength, and we weren't pulled in on the time at all. It would have been fine on the paraglide. And nearly everybody that took off got into it. As witnessed by the fact that I could fly all the way to Mount Tor without really losing a lot and make really fast progress over the ground. But there was a weird wind layer about 300 or 400 above the top, just for a couple of hundred feet, and then it seemed to drop off again. So the thing is that if you've got the wind, if the wind's horizontal, we all know what's going on. right? The wind, you know what your glider's speed can do, you know what the headwind is, and you know whether you're going forward or you're going backwards. But with the waves, the wind direction's changing in the vertical plane. So if you've got 15 miles an hour wind, which might be close to the limit for your paraglider, when you're in the ridge lift and right at the height that you would normally get to at the top of the ridge lift, it's quite windy, right? So you're off the brakes or whatever you do to go fast, pushing that thing that you call the speed bar, it's a down bar or a collapse bar or whatever you call it. is if you find the bit where that wind's blowing upwards, it'll seem really light then, and you'll have no trouble staying going forwards. So what happened that day is it went horizontal at a certain height, but then you could find the bit where it went up, and it was off the end of the ridge. You know, and I got there and I was thinking, come on, paragliders, I'm going up here, it's light, I'm going up. But they all sort of went and top-handed because they sort of came out and had a few wobblies and had the speed bar on, it's turbulence. And this is the problem, is the top end of the speed range on the paraglider is also the least sort of stable, isn't it? If you're on the speed bar, you don't really want it slamming around. Yeah? Whereas it's almost the opposite on a hang glider, is the faster you go, the stabler it is, the more solid it is. What you don't want to be doing is slowing up in the places. So the two crafts are, one is really pushing towards going well in the wave, although we don't really have the performance like sailplanes do to do the wave proper and repeatedly. We've still got to be quite lucky to get in the good wave. But because most days to get in the good wave, you're going to be flying flat out at some point on a canopy problem. Now they're getting better and they're getting more stable as high speed to keep going. But you don't really want to be flying only 60 kilometers an hour. What can you do? Helen, how fast can you go?
I don't know. I don't know, I don't do numbers.
Just do windy and lots and things like that.
I don't think most of us do 60 kilometres an hour, no.
You might do that on the two liners, I think. Yeah. So you were cruising around at 50, with thermal at 50, 40 kilometers an hour, that sort of number. In strong thermals, you go quite fast. Lots of bank on. But yeah. But in the ideal conditions where you step off into that vertical wind, then yes, you'll get into it. But if it's the sort of wave you've got to search out, it's going to be a lot more difficult because you're not moving around as fast. And so when you get in the down bit, you don't get out of it. And that down bit might take all the way to the bottom, rather rapid.
What would be the best way of trying to escape that down bit? Say you land it, you get hammered down. Would you try and run it downwind and possibly end up in the
it depends where you are in the wave. If you're up in the wave when you're at 3,000 feet above the ground, and you get in the downwind, then probably downwind, yeah, because you're not going to go upwind. And you're only going to go very slowly crosswind.
Yeah.
And if you start trying to, so if you climb in the wave, right, and then there's a thing when the cloud starts forming underneath you that you've got to be ready for, and that is the cloud's forming and blowing back, and forming and blowing back. So it's continually forming. But if you've never flown above cloud, there's a psychological thing, the clouds are whizzing past. Although it might look like one of those smooth cumuluses, smooth lenticular clouds from a long way away, when you're there, you can see the cloud whizzing past, and you tend to slow up, because it gives you an impression of speed. Because you're seeing the cloud, and you're not seeing the ground. You're above it. So you can then slow up and then find that you can't get over the front of the cloud. The other thing it does is it sort of gets a dry bit and moves back, and you think, well, I'll move it back with it. So I'm staying over the front edge of the cloud, but that was a dry bit, and now a wet bit comes and a big lump forms in front of you, right up above you, and you're behind it now, and that's where it's forming now. In front of you, it's sort of skipped forwards. It doesn't really skip, like people talk about it skipping. The skip is an effect of the cloud. It dries out and isn't there, and then the moisture comes and it forms again where it always was. But because the cloud is sort of the edge of the cloud apparently moved back, you followed it back, and then it's formed again in front of you. And now you're in the wrong place. You're in the horizontal air. So what was air coming up at 30 degrees to horizontal, and you're sitting there pretty because the horizontal component isn't very much and you're happily flying along. If you get behind it, you get much more horizontal, where it's only going up at 5 degrees, or it even actually is horizontal. And then in order to go forwards, you've then got to speed up, your line angle's worse, you've got no lift, and you go down very quickly. So you've got to watch for that stuff forming further in front, and preferably keep the cloud behind you.